My screen now says meeting is now streaming live on YouTube.
So let's,
Where's mine?
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I see it online now. So hopefully folks find it. It's kind of in a different place than, okay.
Wait a minute, I lost. Hold on. There we are. Sorry about that.
Hey, I'll apologize for the technical difficulties and we'll call the meeting to order. Can we rise for the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag.
United States of America,
The
and to the
Republic,
The
republic
republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Sir, Mayor Maglio,
I am here.
Trustee Berkshire,
Here.
Trustee Devitt,
Here.
Trustee Domke,
Here.
Trustee Poleski,
Here.
Trustee Sarno. Here. Trustee Trejo,
Here.
you have a quorum.
All right, can I have a motion to accept this evening's prepared agenda
So moved.
Second.
and a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Domke,
Aye.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Sarno. Trustee Berkshire.
Yes.
Okay, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the village board meeting will be viewed virtually and will be streamlined on the village's YouTube channel. To provide comments on topics or the agenda items may address the village board during a public comment segment of the village board's agenda by submitting comments in advance through email, voicemail, or online. Email your comments to the village board at roselle@roselle.il.us. Submit an online comment by 4:30 prior to the meeting on June 18th or June 8th, 2020. You can also call 630-671-2804 to leave a voice message with your comments by 3 p.m. on Monday prior to the meeting. Or public comments will be read. All public comments will be read into a recorded during the public comments segment of the village board meeting. And Madam Clerk, at this time, can I have those comments read?
We have one comment today, and it's from Roberta Barino, a Roselle resident. And she says, thank you to Mayor Maglio and the village staff, as well as Chief Heron, his officers, and the officers from the other jurisdictions who ensured the Black Lives Matter March held this past Friday was a success. We were dealing with a lot of unknowns for this event. Kudos to Kayla Smiley, Lake Park alumni, for organizing such a powerful call for unity. By reaching out and working together, the message was able to be communicated and peace reigned in the community. Here's hoping this is the beginning of a healing dialogue that should have been completed years ago. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to officials and staff report. And we'll move on to the mayor's first. At this time, I'd like to take the opportunity to personally thank, from myself on behalf of the board, Chief Steve Herring, Deputy Chief Sean Krustra, Sergeant Robert Barretto, and Public Works Director Karen Young for Friday for all the preparations they made. When referring to the police department term, the finest was always used. I believe that Roselle's finest were there in their best Friday night. I couldn't be prouder of all of our whole police department and all the hard work that they did preparing for Friday night's March. I also like to thank the surrounding area towns and everybody for what they contributed and how they helped our village to make it safe for all of us and our residents. Okay, moving on, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt a resolution extending the declaration of the local state of emergency approved by the village board on May 11th, 2020.
So moved.
I need a
Second.
second. Okay, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
So
Trustee,
could I ask a question first? How long do you think that this is going to continue to appoint an emergency order, Andy? Is this like for 2 weeks and then we'll do it again, or is this 4 weeks?
I believe that we're gonna bring this up at our July meeting when we get the village office opened again. So for right
Okay,
now,
I
it's
see.
two more, it's to our second meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call?
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Sarno. Aye. Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
Aye,
And our motion is carried. I also like to ask for a motion to pass an ordinance ratifying and adopting an action by a mayoral executive order during the declaration of a local state emergency.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Sarno. Aye. Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
aye.
And our motion is carried. That is all I have. Can we move on to the village trustees? Anybody have something they would like to report? Let the record show none. Village clerk,
No report.
village administrator,
No report.
village attorney,
No report.
chamber of commerce liaison.
Good evening, Mayor. On behalf of the Roselle Chamber of Commerce, we are anticipating our annual golf outing to be August 26th, starting at 10:30 a.m., depending upon how things pan out in the next few months. But that is all that I have to report as far as the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and moving on to our consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, procedural, informational, self-explanatory, and non-controversial in nature, and will be enacted in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items. And if I can have our village attorney give us a summary of the consent agenda, please.
Only one item tonight, Mayor, presentation and approval of the village board minutes of May 26, 2020.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Sarno. Aye. Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
Aye,
Trustee Berkshire.
Yes.
Okay, and our consent agenda has been accepted. Okay, moving on to our regular agenda. Trustee Poleski, we have nothing under community development. Administration, Trustee Sarno, please.
Nothing to report.
Yes,
You have a motion?
it's, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I think that's to allow Jason to provide an overview of the sublease agreement with the coffee vendor lease.
All righty, Jason, please.
So before the board is sort of a revisiting of this issue right before the pandemic, the committee of the whole had approved entering into a lease agreement with the current operator of the coffee vendor spot at the Metro train station, Pam Klein. She's been operating on behalf of a couple owners over the last many years, at least 10 plus years. As of March 31st, Maple Leaf Roasters here in town was the owner of the space, or owner of the business occupying the space. They gave us notice that they wanted to leave and end the lease. And Ms. Klein wanted to continue on operating the space, create a new company, basically We'll continue to use the same equipment from Maple Leaf Roasters. And before staff could bring this back to the village board for final approval, there at the second meeting in March, the pandemic hit, we canceled meetings, Metro ridership went down, stay-at-home order, all that. So we never did enter into an agreement. So she has no contractual obligation to pay us rent. Also has no right, I guess, to be in the space right now, but she is still going in there, tending to it, making sure that, you know, the equipment's in good order. So it is appropriate, I think, for the village board to consider entering into a formal agreement with her. She still wants to. I think she just has some concern now with her business model, train ridership. What would that look like? I don't, you know, right now it doesn't seem like Metra is going to be modifying back their schedule. Right now, they're still on a modified schedule, I think system-wide, to deal with the roughly 97% decrease in ridership. So she's anxious to open and wants to open. It's just has some uncertainty with the rent amount, with, you know, not knowing what type of business she'll be able to do out of there. I think we would be looking, you know, phase 4 is probably what you would think would be when the state enters phase 4 is when she'd be able to reopen. So I think more ridership will start to come back, and maybe Metro will adjust their schedule once phase 4 hits, which is expected to be by the end of this month. So it's really getting some direction from the board. If you want staff to continue to try to, you know, negotiate with her, talk with Attorney Knippen, and maybe come up with some creative lease provisions that, you know, rent is kind of tied to how much business actually happens. It is a month-to-month lease, so deferral of rent is maybe not so much an option that where you would have, say, a 12-month lease, add the, you know, deferred rent on the back end, and now you would have, you know, a 14-month lease and you're paying 12 months of rent. But she did inquire with staff, as she and I have been speaking kind of throughout the pandemic, and just kind of want some clarity around the lease terms. And that's why, you know, I let her know I'd bring it back to the board to kind of get the pulse of the board on what it's comfortable doing relative to those terms.
Patrick,
Jason, did we collect the security deposit I know
We have not, from Pam?
from Pam, the
No,
$500?
Yeah,
Okay.
without the executed contract, we didn't collect the security deposit.
Okay. Well, if since I'm talking, I would be for collecting the $500 if she's able to, and deferring rent on a month-to-month basis until Metro opens back up. Without people going in there, I think it's unfair to, you know, ask her for rent at this time. So I would be in favor of deferring that.
David?
I agree. I think I would be interested in a different mechanism maybe, and saying let's enter into a monthly lease agreement. If we have to exchange money, make it $1. And then on a monthly basis, we can reevaluate that until we get to phase 4. And then which case we can sign the longer term contract with the original rent price that we agreed to. So that way, I think that's a little bit cleaner in just my personal opinion, and easier for us to kind of execute against, given the uncertainty of the nature, and then still collect the full upfront with the nominal kind of monthly arrangement until we can see the station being in use again. But that way it gives her the option, like, don't go back to normal. I don't want to hold her to a longer term contract. Like, if ridership on Metro is going to become for a long-term path, like, we might need to evaluate other options with the Metro in general as far as what we're using.
Jason, when you said that she's going in there, is she just kind of checking on the equipment? Is she just,
Yeah,
and she's not really operating, correct?
Yeah, no, she's not operating.
Okay.
Yeah, she has to, she pours like water through the equipment, I think, just to make sure it
Okay.
just kind of general maintenance.
So at this point, I would be fine with either of the suggestions. I mean, her point of going in there is just to kind of make sure that nothing happens to the equipment. Therefore, I'm not even in favor of charging her a security deposit. I think we could simply go ahead and execute the lease once ridership starts coming up. David's idea of having at least something in place so then we don't have to go through this and she can ramp up whenever she has is fine. And then at that point, then hit with the security deposit because there's no one really in there. And I don't want her to be reliable for anything that someone else may be doing since she is not in that real space.
You could do it as a right of first refusal on the lease. So she has the first option, but the consideration for the right of first refusal would be her maintenance of the equipment over the refusal period. That's an option as well. And then there's a couple different ways we could handle that. We could actually attach a sample lease, excuse me, to the right of first refusal, which would give her terms once certain thresholds are satisfied. And then staff could go through and execute the lease in terms of just administratively renewing it without having to bring it back to the board for approval. That's a third option.
Those are fine. I like something of that nature, just so she has the right to go in there, maintain the equipment, and then kick into gear once ridership comes in.
Lee, you had a comment to make?
Yeah, I agree with Bruce and David. I think I don't necessarily care if we get the security deposit now since we don't have like a full-on agreement. I do think we should let her get access to the equipment just to make sure it's operating correctly. I do like the idea that Jim just mentioned about sort of having some general terms, like whether it's we go into phase 4, whatever it is, or metro ridership is at least 60% or whatever, so that Jeff and Jason could just handle it, because I don't want her to have to wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks for us to meet again to, you know, approve the lease. That way it goes, you know, she could just move on with her business.
Okay, thank you. Jason, it's my understanding, isn't this a month-to-month lease?
Yes, yeah, the proposed lease was month to month.
Okay, so proposed lease is month-to-month. I mean, she's not charging us for babysitting the equipment that is owned by.
It's my understanding that, and you know, it certainly would be good to have a contractual relationship here, from insurance to, you know, her space, that God forbid something does happen there, that we have our protections in place. But it's my understanding that she'll use the equipment, you know, loaned to her by Maple Leaf is kind of the arrangement it sounded like.
Okay, so then I would agree with the lease in place with first right of refusal, and then move from there until the Metro business picks up. Everybody in concurrence?
There's no cars there. Nobody's taking the train.
Nope.
You can't squeeze blood out of a turnip.
And we don't want to.
Yeah.
And that arrangement will come back to you for approval.
Mhm.
So we'll get it drafted by Mayor the next agenda, so you can look at it prior to the time that the village is bound by it.
Okay. Yes, David.
So I just think we should tie it to phase 4 and not metro ridership, because my only concern is like, what threshold do we decide is acceptable metro ridership? We'd get into a really gray area that I just don't want to touch. So I'd rather tie it to phase 4. It's cut dry. It's easy, black and white.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
And then it stays month to month. Is that what it would for the rest of the year, would you say, Jason? Is that what the plan is?
Yeah, as it was proposed, there was no end date. It was just month to month, with either party providing, you know, 2 weeks or 30 days notice was what the lease would have looked like. So there are no one's locked in one way or the other.
Mhm.
My only concern though with putting it at the phase 4 is because of what has been happening in society with a lot of the people working from home and everything. How much of that will still stay in effect, and how much of that's going to affect the metro riding? So that would be my only concern there. I would rather say, hey, we'll cover the rent until October and look at it then, or give a date where we have we have a true sign on it, and then move from there.
Correct.
David?
Yeah, I'm fine with the date. I just feel like Metro ridership figures come out so late, and frankly, like offices may not go back to their office ever again. And so the point in time we compare Metro ridership to the future, it's just apples to oranges. So if we would rather do a date, I'm fine with that, but I don't think we should be tying this at all to ridership figures because I don't think we're ever going back to what it was before. And we've already discounted rent by over 50%, or nearly 50% of what it was before. So.
Well, like I said, if things pick up before that date, that'll give her a chance to catch up and actually project what things are gonna be. So I think that would be fair all the way around. So let's pick a date.
Trustee Berkshire would like to speak.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bruce. I can't see under your name there.
So I think having a date would be ideal. I think what we can state something of stage 4 is when she can open for business. Up until then, she can just go in and maintain the facility. Then the date is where we will reevaluate to see how Metra is performing and how she's performing. And then we can start then go back to charging of the rent. So give her a little bit of time to kind of get acclimated. So we can use both.
That's what I'm shooting for. So let's pick a date. Wayne, sorry.
Just to recap, this was more of an amenity than it is a profit center for the village. So I'm not real worried about her paying us right away. And like Bruce said, a little bit of a buffer to, get the business cranking again. And then, she's not making millions there anyway. So, and she probably could use a little time to work up the security deposit too. So being friendly 1, 2, or 3 months is not going to kill us.
That was my goal and intention. I agree with you 100%.
Do you have a date?
Let's have a date. You want to do September? We'll look at it September 1st. When do you want to look at it? Yes.
Andy, I think an October date would be,
Right,
would be appropriate in my opinion. The summer, there's ridership changes that deal with school traditionally going back in. You have colleges. So I think looking at an October 1 would allow us to at least maybe get into that traditional change in sort of ridership that does occur in that September to October timeframe. And, figuring that would be July, August, September. So you're looking at 3 months basically of evaluation.
I'm in favor of October. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lee.
For Jason, has there been anybody that's canceled their annual train rider pass for the parking lots?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, if you could just check in, because to David's point, if there's a substantial amount of people that have canceled it, and we might have to look at also the rent itself, because if let's say there's 50% less riders just permanently, then the rent might have to come down too as the economic value declines.
Now I'll follow up with finance, to see if they can give us those numbers, and we'll report that to the board.
Thanks.
October 1st is a Thursday. I'm sorry, Lee.
But October 1st is fine with me.
October 1st is a Thursday. October 5th would be the first board meeting in October. No, that would be that would be the first.
It'd be October 12th.
October 12th would be the first meeting in October.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Everybody good with October?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Madam Clerk,
Yes?
I have a roll call on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have a motion on that though?
It's just a discussion, but
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
Patrick,
according to new legislation. So
So, okay,
heard.
my bad. Okay.
Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
trustee Trejo,
aye.
trustee Berkshire,
yes.
trustee Devitt,
Aye.
trustee Sarno,
Aye.
and trustee Domke.
All right.
Okay. And it shall be October. Okay, moving right along. Police, Mr. Domke, we have nothing for you. Public Works, Mr. Brookshire, I have nothing underneath there. Under Finance, Mr. Trejo, we have nothing. Other business.
I got one for other business.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to bring up regarding the police, and just like your comments, I totally agree with you that I think our departments definitely a great department, just hearing from community members, just speaking to that fact. I just had an idea later this afternoon, and I was wondering if we could either talk about it now or just talk about it in a future committee of the whole, but it'd be nice to maybe kind of be more transparent with the community about our police and just what we exactly do in terms of training, maybe even like different incidents that happen, and maybe just have like a semi-annual report to not only the board, but also to the village. So I think it'd be nice to get maybe like 3 PowerPoint slides talking about the various trainings that our officers have attended, maybe like what level they're at in terms of experience, different trainings they've attended in the last 6 months, maybe the last year or their whole career, whatever it is. It would just be good to maybe get like a couple slides that the community could see just how invested we are in the police and how professional of an organization we have. And maybe have like a presentation in July and let's say January every year.
And I think one of our best tools we have is the Citizens Police Academy.
Totally agree.
That also agree, you know, tells everybody exactly the intense training that they go through, their procedures on how they handle them. We have to have the community interested in doing that. And like I said, that's one of our best tools out there. But I do agree, maybe if we can have something in maybe one of our newsletters or something, our email section, even the Q&A would be fine. Thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else?
Can I ask something about that too?
Sure.
All right, so I wanted to also say that the Roselle Police, basically, it wasn't what they did Friday night, it's what they've done every night before Friday night. That we don't have an adversarial relationship with the residents that I know of. I haven't seen any incidents where any of that was the case. Plus, having the officer at Lake Park High School, they know that person and they're not angry at police here in Roselle. So to Lee's point, the training, the discipline, the correct hiring of the right officers makes a big difference when things like this happen. So to Lee's point, that would be a real good thing to show the community how much effort is put in to make for a good police force and a good force that has good relationships with the people.
Anybody else?
I'm the chair of police. I have to say something, right?
Okay. Moving on to executive section.
Mr. Mayor, just one thing. Before we got started in the meeting, I asked Patty whether we had any citizen comments that were waiting in the queue. And she, I think, said she thought there was one. I don't see anything on the screen, but on the agenda as I review it here, it doesn't look like we have anything for citizen comment actually. So we should probably ask the question prior to the time that we go into executive session, whether there's any citizen comments live that anyone wants to make tonight.
We don't,
We're not on live?
we don't have that capability.
Okay, very good. That
Yeah.
answers the question then, Patty, and I misunderstood when I asked you that question. My apologies.
No problem. Okay. Going into executive session.
I think we make a motion to adjourn the meeting, correct, Andy?
You can do it either way, Jeff. You can make a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into executive session, or you can adjourn the meeting after you come out of executive session, although no final action is anticipated.
I think for ease, we usually adjourn the meeting so we wouldn't have to come back.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
No, first we need a motion for executive session.
Correct.
So moved.
So
So Trustee Devitt's gonna do first, and who's gonna second that?
I'll second.
Purpose of the executive session is to discuss specific personnel in a specific department of the village.
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Sarno,
Aye.
Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Domke.
All right,
Okay, now we need a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Pardon me?
I'll make a motion.
The motion to adjourn the board meeting.
The board meeting.
Trustee Trejo,
Aye.
Trustee Domke,
all right.
Trustee Devitt,
Aye.
Trustee Poleski,
Aye.
Trustee Berkshire,
Yes.
Trustee Sarno.
Aye.
Okay.
We are adjourned.